Today we're going to talk about some angle pairs in lesson 1.5, and there's 4 special ones that we're going to talk about. The linear pair, the vertical angles, supplementary, and complementary. Let's go ahead and start with complementary angles. Angles are complementary angles when you have two that sum to 90 degrees. They can either be adjacent, which means that they share a side. Each angle shares this side. Or they can be non-adjacent, which means they're just two angle pairs that add to 90 degrees. Complementary. Angles could also be supplementary angles. Two angles can be supplementary angles when they have a sum of 180 degrees. They can also be adjacent, which looks like this. Notice this picture here and this picture here match each other. That's not a coincidence. A supplementary angle and a linear pair, you're going to see in just a moment that the definition up here is very similar to supplementary. Or they can be non-adjacent. So look right here, we're told that angle A and angle B are supplementary, which means I know I can find the value of x by saying x plus 120 equals 180 and solving that equation. Okay? All right, let's move on. Those should be a review. Those should be two words that you have heard before, complementary and supplementary. A neat way to remember them is the letter P. The letter P looks like I took the number 9 and I flipped it around. And so complementary has 1 P, 90. Supplementary has 2 P's, 90 plus 90, 180. Just a cute little mnemonic trick to remember. Okay, let's go ahead and look at the linear pair. So we already saw that the linear pair looks very similar to the supplementary angles. Notice that the complementary angles, because of the 90, they have the box. But let's look at the linear pair. All right. For two angles to be considered a linear pair, they must be adjacent angles whose non-common sides form opposite rays. And here we get the definition that linear pairs are supplementary. That means that I'm going to take the two angles that I'm given, 112 and x, I'm going to add them together and they equal 180. It does not mean that 112 equals 180. That doesn't even make any sense. So when I have a problem like this and I see that two angles are a linear pair, I see the words linear pair, I should already be thinking I'm going to add two together, pair two, and they equal 180. So if you continue reading the sentence, notice I set up my two angles according to the sentence. I set them equal to 180 and then I solved for x. All right, vertical angles. Vertical angles look nothing like supplementary or complementary angles. They are totally different. Two angles whose sides form two pairs of opposite rays, or a pair of non-adjacent angles formed by intersecting lines. Vertical angles almost always are going to form some crisscross. Excuse my dog. And they are congruent. Here's the congruent symbol. And if you could guess by the symbol, congruent just means that they're equal. Notice that I have it right there a little bit heavier. So what you need to think of when you see vertical angles, because a lot of times you're going to be asked to just notice them in a picture, they're going to be across from each other. So these two in purple are the same. This x is 72. These two here are not 72, but they're equal to each other as well. And notice my vertical angles, they share just a vertex. They do not share a side, they share just a vertex. All right, so down here, I was told that I had these two angles, ABC and DBE, and I know that they are vertical. So here I'm seeing the words, here I would be seeing the picture. You could do either one. Because of that word vertical angles, I knew to take the two expressions that I saw later in the problem, set them equal to each other, and then I solved for x. And it did ask me to go back and substitute. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at some problems that we can encounter using our special angle pairs, using these new angle pairs. So here's our first problem, and it simply says that CD, that ray CD this is the symbol for perpendicular to line AB. Perpendicular gives me a 90 degrees. So these ones are not supplementary, these ones are going to be complementary because I know perpendicular gives me 90. If there's two. If there's only one, then the one is 90 degrees. So let's go ahead and take a look at our problem. I'm given two angles, measure of angle 1 and measure of angle 2, and I have a picture. Let me slide that up to make sure you can see it. There we go. I've gone ahead and placed angle 1 in the picture, 6x minus 3, and angle 2 in the picture, 7x minus 11. And I've gone ahead and I've set up my problem. I knew to add them together because angle 1 and angle 2 are complementary because of that word, that perpendicular symbol, not the word, the symbol. So I'm simply going to come in here and put my 7x minus 11 and my 6x minus 3. I'm going to draw my line and I'm going to start solving for x. Make sure that this stops moving. Okay. I'm going to combine together my x's, and look, they're on the same side, so that's 13x. I'm going to take the minus 11 and the minus 3, and I'm going to combine them together to minus 14. The equal sign stays where it is, and 90 comes down. Now I have my two-step problem, so I'm working over here where x is. I'm going to add the 14 because I always want to get rid of the constant. I want the constants together first, and remember they're separated. The line is in between my fingers, so I cannot do 90 minus 17. And that should be 104 when I add them together. Now I just simply have to divide by 13, x equals 8. And that's all the question asked us to find. I have one last example for us, and we shall be done with angle pairs. Give me just a moment here. There we go. Find the measure of angle EBC. So if you notice in the picture, the first thing that jumps out at me is that they're crisscrossed. And I did go ahead and I highlighted EBC because that's what they asked me to find. That's what I'm asked to find. I was given these two angles in the picture, and what I noticed is that these two angles share this common vertex B. They're across from one another, which makes them vertical angles. Since they are vertical angles, that makes them congruent. That makes them equal to each other. So I'm going to set them equal to each other. Draw my line down the middle, and I'm going to solve for x. All right, I'm going to take a look at the x's first because I always do the x's first. The line is between my fingers, so I'm going to subtract the 2x. If the line was not, I would have added them. That gives me 1x plus 15. I don't need the 1. I'm going to put it there very, very lightly, but I don't need it. I'm going to subtract 15. Subtract 15, x equals 5. But that's not what I was asked. I was asked to find this yellow angle. Notice how I highlighted it. I highlighted it, if we go back in the video, or if I flip back the page, just like I did for the linear pair. That's because this pink angle and this yellow angle are 180 degrees together. So I'm going to take my value of x and I'm going to plug it into this angle. So 2 times 5, that's 10, plus 20, 10 plus 20, this angle is 30 degrees. Just a minute. Now to get this angle, I'm going to take my 180 from my linear pair of these two, subtract the 30, and I get 150. So my measure for angle EBC is 150 degrees.